In general, I'm kind of a positive guy. I like to see people grow. I like to see studios do well. I like to see games do well. And I love to see this, like the underdog story, the little tiny studios that first form and they grow into something bigger. They release a game, they have some success, and then they go on to the next one. Those are the kinds of stories that I really enjoy, and there's one right here today. And this one is pretty close to my heart because when I first started this channel is about when this game came about, or at least shortly after. So I've covered it quite a bit along the way. Zero Hour is the game that I'm talking about, a little tiny game that's basically a Rainbow Six. I'll call it a Rainbow Six knockoff, but it does take some ideas from that, but grounds it a little bit more in realism. It's not a hero shooter. Wasn't a hero shooter. It was more of a, for me, it was more of a co-op tactical LARP experience for those close quarters especially. But they did have some PvP, it had the attackers, defenders, that Rainbow Six style of game. And to be honest, it was quite fun when I played it. I didn't get to play it a lot. But way back when it released, it was like the only close quarters experience. Ready or Not was just kind of a dream at that point. It really hadn't come to fruition, whatever you want to say to that. And so I really enjoyed Zero Hour, and I think a lot of people did as well. And for a small team out of Bangladesh, it's done some really big things there. I think initially it started with like 5 people, and now they're sitting at like 50, 40 some. But that studio, M7 Productions, which is now Atridio M7, I believe, they've taken the success of that game, they've grown their studio, developed a good base, and now they're coming out with another game that I think is gonna hit just right. Today, I want to tell you about Blackwood, a new third-person shooter with some Max Payne vibes to it, some old-school Matrix vibes as well. That's a new game coming from M7 and the team over there. What they're going to be doing now is instead of the first-person tactical co-op PvP kind of experience, they're shifting a little bit more to the story-based with some RPG elements as well. My name is Tacti, and I'm on a quest to find the most immersive video games on the internet, and today, I want to tell you about Blackwood and what's to come. So first and foremost here, let's talk about what is Blackwood. What is the idea behind the game? What's their purpose? What's the general story of the game? Blackwood is a cinematic third-person action thriller that blends smooth, responsive gunplay with grounded melee combat in a dual-life structure. By day, you run your DVD store in authentic 2012 New York, decorating, interacting, and managing your apartment. And then by night, you descend into the underworld of assassination contracts, executing brutal takedowns, staging environmental kills, and surviving high-octane set-piece chases. With an original soundtrack performed by the in-house band, Blackwood fuses storytelling, gameplay, and music into one relentless noir-inspired experience. So you the player, you are Anton Blackwood, and you run a DVD store. That's sort of like your cover operation there. It's set in 2012, so it does have that 2012 feeling with the DVD store. Some of you may not even know what the heck we're talking about. Family Video, Blockbuster, Movie Gallery, you know the good stuff. If you don't know, then you missed out on a ton, and I'm very sorry that now you live in this world. But the game is meant to be a story-based game with a little bit of an RPG twist to it. You as Anton, obviously, you've got a story that you're going to be following. You've got some missions that you've got to complete. You're an assassin, so you're going to be assassinating people, but also there are going to be some twists and turns along the way. But aside from that, there's going to be something really cool that they talked about with me. We had a little bit of a chat. I did test the game out. I'll give my impressions here in just a second. But I was also able to sit and ask a few questions to M7 himself. Mehraj, I don't know if I'm saying that right, buddy. I'm really sorry. I'll just call you M. But he gave me a little bit of a breakdown on what they're planning on doing with this game as sort of a side quest RPG. And it sounds very interesting, sounds very unique in itself. Now, a few things that this game sort of takes some inspiration from. You've got Max Payne, or if you remember the Max Payne gunplay. Reminds me a little bit of The Matrix as well. That was always a blast. That was one of my favorite games growing up. And then you've also got, obviously, John Wick. You've got the dark theme, you've got the suits, you've got a little bit of, just that darkness, that dark vibe to it. And with that inspiration, I believe there's not a whole lot like that on the market right now. I don't think there's anything that really hits that niche unless you want to go back and play the older games, which you definitely can. But there's not a lot of the action, third person, slow motion, really fun gunplay. There's just not a lot of that on the market, which I think M7 has done a really good job of, both with Zero Hour and with this, finding that niche, finding that area that just is underserved, and attacking it and creating something to fill the gap there. And that's why I think this is going to be a big hit as well, because it really, there's not a whole like it on the market, and it is really, really cool. One of the things I want to talk about also is the multiplayer aspect to it, the possible multiplayer aspect. We'll see how that turns out, but I want to discuss that in a little bit. But first, I want to discuss more of the features in the game, sort of how you're going to play the game, what to expect when you're playing the game, and just some cool ways that they're going about it. So first of all, I want to talk about the takedown system. This is one of the key selling points to them. This is something that they really stress when I was talking to them. They're motion capping, or they have motion capped a ton of things. They're going to motion cap a bunch more, but essentially with that motion cap and the takedown system, it's going to be a very dynamic system. So it's going to focus on what things are around the player, what things are around the enemy, where you're coming from, how fast you're coming towards them, what objects are there the enemy is holding. It's going to be very dynamic. So it's not just going to be the same takedown every single time. It is going to have different effects, different cinematics, and that's why this is a cinematic storytelling adventure, because they want to take the environment itself and make it a part of the story. It isn't going to be the copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste, because that, in the end, that gets really old. If you approach a situation from a different location, from a different angle, and you attack that specific angle, then you're going to have a different outcome, a different cinematic experience compared to what, if you were taking the, if there weren't dynamic takedowns, I guess that's the way to say it. The game is going to use third person, and from what I can tell, there's not going to be any first person experiences, but you've got a cover system that you can focus on. You can kind of hide behind, sneak around, so you can get to enemies, get to certain locations, and then, initiate those takedowns and have a lot of fun with that. There's going to be things like slow motion, which is always a blast, man. If you're going to have a third person jumpy shooter like this, cover based, flying through the air, you've got to have slow motion, and luckily they do. And to go along with this story too, they're looking to have kind of a seamless cutscene to action sequence, a seamless gameplay to cutscene experience. They don't want to have a whole lot of loading scenes. They don't want to have anything like that. They want everything to be as flawless and as smooth as possible, so you get the most immersion into the game, which is fantastic. Another thing, just kind of a side note when it comes to this, the game is set in 2012 New York, so you're going to see some things that are older, some things that you really wouldn't see anymore. But to go along with that, you're going to see the progression of technology along those times, because 2012 till now has seen some really dramatic improvements when it comes to technology. So as an example, he talked about how initially when you play the game, you're going to see these payphones. And then as you play the game further and progress the story and progress your player, you're going to see more people on cell phones, and they're going to take out the payphones. So just the environmental storytelling there is going to be really cool, and they're hoping to put in some real world experiences or real world stories. That's always hard for me to say. Real world stories, so that you can be like, yeah, man, I remember when that happened. I remember exactly when that happened. So that's going to be really cool as well. I think if they can nail that narration, that narrative, the cinematic experience down, it is going to be one of those things that people are going to be like, this is cool, dude. This is cool. But to go along with that, outside of the story-based experience, you're also going to be running a DVD store. That's going to be the RPG sort of element to it. Time is going to progress. Your player is going to get injured. And if you go out on missions and you get beat up and get bruised up or get cuts or get shot, your body's going to show it. So you're going to have to take care of yourself outside of those missions. You're going to have to clean up a little bit. You're going to have to clean up your apartment. You're going to have to sell DVDs. And that's going to be a way to sort of progress your technology, progress your weapons, get more weapons. I have not experienced that yet. I was not able to experience that. I just experienced sort of an intro there. But that is the way that they talked about it, the way they discussed it. It seems like it's going to be a really cool feature, because you're not just a player progressing a story. You're not just a linear. It's not just a linear game. You can do some side quests, I'll say, side missions, side gameplay, like meta gameplay there. So it should be very interesting. Like when you get a haircut, your hair is going to grow, and then you're going to get a haircut. It's not like you're just going to change to a haircut here, and you can do whatever you want. You got to really, if your haircut's going to get cut, it's going to get cut. If your hair's going to get cut, it's going to get cut. Man, I really should write down a script for these things. Now, when it comes to multiplayer, they're not really sure how they want to implement it. I discussed maybe a way to have sort of side missions or I recommended, maybe have side missions that you and your friends can play, maybe be able to go in and, just play a side mission together to experience a little bit of co-op, right? If you want to do multiplayer, maybe that's the way to do it. But they had other plans, and this is this is where it gets a little spicy. Maybe it's gonna work. I don't know. The game Sniper Elite, where you can infiltrate somebody's mission and try to stop them from completing that mission? That's kind of what they want to do with this, which is a really, really cool idea, though I don't know practically how that's going to work. I don't know if that's going to be a very practical thing, but who knows, man? I think that's a cool idea. I think that's fun. I think it might be a good way to implement some PvP, and it's a unique way too, because nobody really does that other than Sniper Elite. So I think they've got a great idea. It just depends on how they implement it. Now, I did get my hands on the game, and from my experience, it was a pretty bare bones experience. It was fun. It felt like the old days of gaming. It was fairly difficult, actually, because cover wasn't right there, and sometimes you had to really approach a situation differently. It was fairly difficult, but I can see exactly where they're planning to go with it. I can see what they're planning on doing with it. I can see how they want to implement a story system into it, and I really respect it. I enjoyed my time playing that short, 20-minute demo. 20 minutes took me 40 minutes because I kept dying, but 20-minute demo to get a view of what they're going to do, just a snapshot. Now, what I played, it was just some gunplay, it was some cover, it was some takedowns, which were just a lot of fun. But also the game is going to have things like a driving system. So it's not just going around shooty shoot, pow, 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 right? They are going to implement a driving system, which I really do. Man, I just respect the heck out of them, because just as a side note here, the way that this works for them, they're in Bangladesh, and there's not a ton of people that really have a degree in like computer science or programming there. Or if they do have a degree, I was speaking with a developer, if they do have a degree, they've just been doing some random software. It's not like they've been doing games. So they've said that they've had to pretty much train everybody on the job, which like, what a success story, right? You're in this basically a poverty-stricken nation. You're the only gaming studio in this nation, right? You start out with 5 people and you just grow. You're able to provide for your community and provide opportunities for the people around you to really boost, just a ton of money into the system. So that's great. I love success for that. I hope that they have been able to bless their community there, their country there with that. I really respect that. It makes me happy. I'm just a positive guy, But honestly, I'm excited to get my hands on this game even more, because I am, with the time that I've had lately. I know you haven't seen me a ton other than maybe a few live streams here or there. This is the kind of stuff that I'm into. This is the kind of stuff that I can really dive into in my free time. I'm able to save it. I don't have to worry about, having a ton of sweaty gameplay. It can just be a fun story-driven experience, and it's like those cinematic ones are like movies that you can play, which I'm always a fan of, because I don't watch a whole lot of movies anymore. So that's what we know so far. We don't know a whole lot. We don't know when it's planning on coming out. I believe 2026, fall 2026. So maybe a year from now. I believe maybe it was spring 2026. There we go. Q3 of 2026. That's my bad. I didn't look at the Steam page before I got on here. But with the music, with the storytelling, with the voice acting that has been really good, in the environment and the theme that they're going for, I think this is going to do well. I think this hits a niche that people are really going to enjoy. But let me know. Do you think this is something that you would pick up? For me, yes, obviously. But yeah, what do you think? Other than that, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for sticking around while I just blabber on about a game that seems pretty cool to me. And I don't get to do this much anymore. So I appreciate you sticking around this long. Hopefully it's been insightful and you have enjoyed your time with me today. If you liked the video, give it a like. If you didn't, obviously a dislike. Subscribe if you want to come along for the ride with this channel and, I don't know, do things like this, I guess. And until the next one, blend in until you need to stand out.